Roadhog, what are you doing on these streets?
Oh my god. This is we're here to talk about Midnight Mass. Is that right?
The war goes on,
Okay.
and on and on and on. Onward, Christian soldiers,
Ah, yes. And so
marching as to war. The war goes on. Roadhog, you're going down.
I get it. I get the reference.
Okay,
I played that
good to
game. I
hear.
never played that game.
Bring the noise.
I'm out of breath in here already.
Stay frosty.
Okay.
You better stay frosty, because you're gonna be frosty when I put you behind bars.
Alec, can I tell you something?
You can call me Soldier 76, reporting for duty.
Soldier 76, can I tell you something?
Yeah, what do you want?
9.5 out of 10.
That's what you think?
It's so damn good.
I've got you in my sights.
God.
Okay, so I'm taking this mask off because it is very, I can't actually, it's actually very difficult to see out of it. It's like translucent only to a point. But it's also going to be very difficult to put on. So welcome everyone who decided to watch this first one. So as I don't know if that's going to go back on or not. So hello, how are you? Midnight Mass was quite good. I don't know if I have a score in mind for it yet though.
I'm so out of breath already. I was just sitting there for 2 seconds and it's like cut off all air.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot to handle. Ooh, let me just.
Oh my god.
There we go. Let me just make an adjustment there. Okay.
I am still pig in spirit though, and I have a baby pig here.
Oh, you go old pig. Okay. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. So we're here to talk about Midnight Mass, Mike Flanagan's new romp of proportions. The limited series on Netflix came out about a month and a half ago, I think. But we decided to hold off on talking about it until spooky times, until our horror month, for good reason.
Well, we had to have time to watch it too.
That too.
I gotta tell you, I'm in love. I was in love with this show.
Yeah, you binged it in like one night, right?
Yeah, I was
Guess
like,
what?
man, hopefully I have enough time to watch this. And then it was like one day later, I'm like, okay, I got through all the episodes.
Yeah. Guess what? I kind of did almost the same thing. I didn't really. I was not finding time to watch it until like it was like, all right, week of gotta just make time for it. So I watched like the first. I actually only thought there were 5 episodes when there ended up, or no, I only thought there were 6 and there ended up being 7. So I was like, oh god, okay. So then I had to watch like 5.5 episodes last night. It was like I didn't get to bed till 3. So and I had to wake up early this morning too. So it was like, all right, well it was mostly worth it. I would say it was mostly worth it.
Okay.
I am gonna say I think I don't think it stuck the landing as nicely as the other two, as the Haunting series. I did very much enjoy this. There have been things about it that I've been thinking about all day that really still bother me about it though. And it might just be like, Alec, that was the point. That was the point, right? That shouldn't bother you. That's kind of the point. But it's like, well, to a certain degree, I guess. But
Interesting.
yeah. I didn't think it stuck the landing as nice as I wanted it to. There were just things about it, about the last episode in particular, just things about it that I just wanted to have played out just somewhat differently. But as a whole, it's a freaking it's glorious. It's amazing. What an incredible series. What an amazing, how does he get like the performances out of these actors, right?
Yeah. I think
incredible.
It's incredible. All the actors are incredible. The direction is great. I mean, there's so much
cinematography.
There's so much to appreciate here. What I thought was cool, that I saw a comment someone made on it, where it was like, Mike Flanagan is showing that you can make meaningful stories through horror, which you don't see often.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like not just jump scares, that kind of thing. It's not like cheap tricks. It's like
Yeah, no,
actually.
I totally agree.
Why is he wearing
I
the
should have
Survivor
had I
buff?
should have had this on the whole time. I'm fixing my costume. I had this on the whole time because it's like black-ish,
Does he
like
have
that
a
show.
buff? Does he have a thing on?
He has like the neck piece goes like all the way up, kind of. It's like black tactical like stealth gear,
Hmm.
which I don't really have anything that does that until I was thinking, wait, I have this buff. I can just do that. Yeah, that works.
But yeah, it's
Yeah,
like I found myself like really connecting with a lot of these characters, and also like really caring about a lot of these characters, and like
yeah,
they were having actually meaningful conversations. It was like there's great stuff out of this, and you wouldn't think that from a horror series. That's not generally what you go into those for. So it's really cool what Mike Flanagan's done through, especially the Haunting series and now this.
yeah. I will say I think this might be some of the the most like heartfelt. So Mike Flanagan grew up Catholic and is now an atheist.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to me, this was like one of the most respectful takes on religion that I've ever seen an atheist have. It's really remarkable, particularly when I don't actually know if Mike Flanagan is American. I would assume he is. I often find that like most like I would say British atheists have an appreciation for the church and liturgy and things like that, Anglicanism. Um, there's a lot that they, when commenting on it, that they appreciate about it, even though they don't necessarily agree. And I felt like that same kind of giving respect where respect is due for like different people with different beliefs and things like that. I thought that was very appreciative. It didn't feel to me like it was like a pointed takedown of anyone's particular faith or religion. It was just a very open
Mm-hmm.
conversation, and it didn't and it didn't really have. In my mind, it would have worked better if I don't think it came out with an answer, and I think that was the point. And I'm glad that it didn't. But I feel like there was almost an attempt at one, and that was kind of where one of my sticking points is with the ending. Um, but much of the series is just it's dealing with grief, right? This whole thing it's all about regret and grief. Is like basically everything. Every character is facing that to a certain point. And that's like the human condition right there, dealing with your things that you mistakes you made in your past. And yeah, it's very poignant. I thought like I totally agree with you. Like having characters engage in like serious conversations in ways that like feel meaningful and real is like,
Yeah, they felt like
where
real
are you going to see
conversations.
that? Yeah.
Like it didn't feel like totally off of a script kind of thing. I mean, like some of it's really well written and like artistic in that way, but
Yeah.
it's like this is like an actual conversation you could have with someone.
Yeah.
Um, and if you've seen The Haunting of Hill House or The Haunting of Bly Manor, you're gonna see a lot of actors from that again, which is really cool.
Henry
And,
Thomas.
and
I
a
think
lot
yeah, he
of
was marvelous.
yeah, and a lot of them aren't to like the actors you might be expecting either. Like the actress who
Mm.
plays Bev was Steve's wife in Hill House,
Mm.
and like the actor who plays Joe. Like you wouldn't expect some of these ones to be coming
Yeah.
back, and it's cool. They get to shine in different ways.
Mm.
But I really would like to get into spoilers because there's
Okay.
a lot to get into.
There's
I would
there
say
is a lot. This show is do it. Do
yeah.
yourself a favor. Watch the show before you watch any further here. This show is awesome. Try to go into spoiler free as possible. Um,
Yeah,
I
that helps
actually
me a lot.
I got a little bit spoiled on one thing,
Hmm.
and I was a little bummed about it. But then when I was watching it, I was like, I would have figured it out like in maybe the second episode anyway. So it's telegraphed very well so that in the reveal when that comes about is like it's like it all clicks into place, but you can kind of guess where it's headed um, before that. But anyway,
Hmm. So yeah, definitely check it out and come back.
yeah.
All right. And I would say even if you're not a horror fan, like
Oh
my
yeah.
brother doesn't like watching like scary stuff, so like a lot of horror things, he's like, hesitant to even watch. So,
Mm,
but I'm like, you should watch it. It's not really like scary. I wouldn't say like
yeah.
there's only a couple little moments. It's mostly just like unsettling
The
and like,
sixth episode is a little intense, I
but
would
it's
say.
intense, yeah.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it's not for everyone, but
Yeah.
it's I think it's like it's still worth watching. You know.
Mm.
Um,
Oh,
all
I
right.
totally agree. Yeah.
Spoilers. Okay.
Spoiler century.
I did not know that this show was about vampires going
That
into
was
it,
the thing that I was spoiled about. So
but
there was an article titled that like said something about like vampires in this, and I was like, oh,
it
that kind
was.
of bums me
I
out.
thought it was great that not going into it, not knowing it though. I'm like,
I know that would
that
have been
was
so. It would have been so good to have
because
gone in not knowing that.
the first couple episodes was it was like okay, we're just having some meaningful conversations about like faith and things like that, and
Mm,
a little bit of depression and dealing with things you've done, you know. But and then like there's like a couple hints of creepy things happening, but then once you get into that, is it episode 3 or
it's episode 3 where it's the sort of flashback segments, which I mean, so okay. So even though I had the fact that vampires were spoiled, I didn't have how it happened spoiled,
mm-hmm.
and that was awesome.
Oh, it was
That
awesome.
was unbelievably awesome.
But it was weird because I was like so into like the first couple episodes. I was like so into it. I had
Yeah.
no idea where it was going. In
Yeah.
fact, when I went to the show, all I knew was that it was Flanagan. That's like all I really
Yeah.
knew about it. So it was like I knew I was expecting these actors and that kind of show, but I didn't even know. I didn't even read into the title that much. I didn't know there would be that much
Yeah.
religion and stuff
Yeah.
infused in it. So it was like I was all on board with the kind of stuff we were going through the first 2 episodes. Then when I first saw vampires, I was like, oh, whoa, vampires. Don't know how I
Yeah.
feel about that, but they sold me on it pretty quickly. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I thought it was awesome. I really liked. So it's all about the denizens of this island, this small what is it? Crockett Pot, right? I think it was called like Crockett Pot or something like that.
Crockett.
Crockett
They called
Pot.
it. They just
No, it is. So a pot is a thing. It's an actual like that's a term for an island.
Yeah, but it's
I
called
think
Crockett.
right.
And
Crockett Pot.
The play was Crockett Potluck. Is what the sign was.
Right.
Potluck.
Right.
But they called it the Crock Pot. Was the nickname.
They
for
called
it.
it the Crock Pot, but Crockett Pot is the name of the island. A pot is like a as a term for like the kind of island that is.
Yeah, but I think
That's
the
like
name is
a
Crockett.
nautical. Yeah, the name of the island is Crockett Pot because it's a pot.
Oh no.
All right, never mind anything I just said. I'm an idiot. I don't know. I don't know why I thought that.
Because you saw the sign that said potluck.
Probably, and I was like, oh
but
yeah,
they call
okay.
it the crock pot as a little nickname.
Yeah.
It's called
I don't know.
Crockett.
Yeah. Anyway, that nonsense is over. Yes, so it's all about this small little community, and God, I almost just called him Toby.
Riley?
That's not his name at all. It's Riley. Yeah. So he comes back to Crockett Island after spending a stint in prison. The show actually opens on like the accident.
Oh, yeah.
Like just straight up the accident where he is drunk driving and killed a child in what he was doing. So he spent like 4 years in the clink, I think. It's 4 or 5 years, something like that. Yeah. And on good behavior, it was 4 to 10 years for if he was on good behavior. And so he has visions of her every time he goes to sleep, and that's always an awesome like sequence whenever he's lying down and the camera always does that like turn and then it cuts to you see like the flashing light and then just like cuts to her like busted up face and everything. It's really horrifying. It's great.
And Flanagan loves that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things in here. It's like, okay, he loves doing these things.
Yeah.
He loves having this thing that haunts people. Like you
Yeah.
see it in Bly Manor with the her fiance, where she always sees that in the reflections. Like he loves stuff like that.
Mm.
And then there's a couple of different like directing and or camera shots and stuff like that. Where it's like, okay, that's classic.
Mm.
Um,
So yeah, it's about vampires. So their priest was sent out on like they sent him to go to the Holy Land to do like a tour of the Holy Land. It's like kind of a last gas thing for him, because he's getting older and he'd never been before. And so instead of him coming back, they expect him to come back, and then in the first episode at Mass on Sunday, it turns out it's a young guy. It's like someone no one recognizes, and it's like he's like, well, he explains, well, he's still on the mainland. I'm taking his place for now, but he's still fine. Don't worry about it. Well, he's informed me about everybody here. He knows, told me so much about you, and she's trying to fit in. So some things start happening. He proceeds with doing stuff, proceeding with church duties, and it's in the third episode where it's revealed. Is it the second episode where he gets the girl to walk? Is it in the second episode where that happens?
I think it is at the end of the second episode. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a girl that was paralyzed by one of the people in the town. He's like kind of a drunk. The town drunk, Joe. Joe's a wonderful character. Who was gone too soon. I know. There's except for Bev. She's a horrible person.
I still love her though.
She's a horrible person and deserves to suffer way more than she ever did in the entire show.
Joe is great. And
Joe's amazing.
And Lisa was a great character.
Lisa's great. Lisa's a great character. I think Father Paul is like one of the best characters Mike Flanagan's ever written. I thought he was wonderful. Every single scene he was in was just like transfixed on his every word. Like, I don't know how you do that as an actor. It was amazing.
Yeah, like, Monsignor Pruitt.
Monsignor Pruitt, as it turns out. So it turns out he in a confession. It keeps flashing back and forth to this confession because he's confessing his sins in the booth, and he's apologizing to God because it's like I'm going to lie, but so many things are going to come forward to this city. So please, to this town, please forgive me for lying to them. For all the goodness that's going to come. And he admits it. He tells the whole story in his confession of how he was in middle stages of dementia when he went, and he had not informed the congregation of how it was not going well. And he got horribly lost in a trip. I don't even know how that would happen. How it would happen where you would go so far away from your group that you'd get stuck out in the middle of the desert.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's horrible. That's just horrible.
Attention.
But it's like, it's one of those, like, you accept the mystique and the mystery of it because of he comes across a dark cave in the Mesopotamian desert, and in that dark cave is an evil that has been lurking down in there. But it's not an evil according to him because it saved him. It was in fact an angel. By all accounts, that is not an angel, and by any means. But in the pits of death, in the near death experience he had, he seeing this thing feeding on its flesh when it on his blood, when it kind of like leans back, it's like the light glints on the cave just in a certain way, so it looks like it's a halo around its head. Mm-hmm. It's winged. Basically, it looks like a devil of a sort. But angels are terrifying, as you find out in the Bible. So he's in his mind, because it saved him. He's sort of willing to sort of accept the fact that this thing looks horrifying, but it saved him, and it revived him, made him young again. and so he has to bring it back. He feels that there's a connection. They shared each other's blood, so there's this connection between them. So he's like, I have to bring it back to the community. I need to share it with the people that in the town that means so much to me. But what that means is he's a vampire and he's turning everybody into vampires, or is going to be turning everybody into vampires also. What a creepy, chilling, beautiful, horrifying premise.
Yeah.
It's like it's a mixture of so many things, and it's done so well. It's like it's so great. I love it.
I love it too, and the presentation of it is so good, and the way they had the the little I don't know how you even describe them. They're like handcrafted little squares depicting each part of the story as he's telling it. It's like in sand.
Oh yeah, those are like they're reliefs is what they are. Yeah, yeah, those are awesome. Yeah, those are really 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 great. Very creative.
Yeah. And so I mean, this was all in. Was that in episode 3 or was that episode 2?
That was all episode 3. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, episode 2 I really liked because it was setting up everything, and you had Riley talking with the Father Paul. And I mean, I'm a non-religious person. I related to a lot of what Riley was saying in that conversation. I mean, I thought it was really cool, a really cool conversation they were actually having there at that moment.
Yeah. So and I come from sort of the opposite side. I'm not Catholic, but I am religious. I almost just broke out into an Alex Jones range. I'm a Christian. I'm a Jew. I'm a I'm a reptoid alien thing. All right, but so I am I am a practicing Christian, and so a lot of what the arguments are, that back and forth is literally never going to end. Like it's a conversation that like there's really no there's no satisfying answer no matter where you go. And the show doesn't pretend that there is one on either side. And I think that to me is like the most realistic thing. It's like two people having this conversation about like why it's ultimately the idea of theodicy. Why do good things happen, or why do bad things happen to good people for no apparent reason? And yeah, it's awesome conversation. I agree. Their conversations throughout the whole series are great.
Yeah.
Every conversation they have is just like how that's shot in the
Oh yeah.
How so that's shot is so fascinating. I loved every single time. It was like it cuts to the wide shot of them two sitting very symmetrically, but then it's like it's always shot with a little bit off, where Father Paul's like in the right side of the frame, and there's like so much space that it's so captivating. I love how those scenes are shot during the AA meetings that he has at the rec center, the newly built rec center that Bev built for them.
Yeah. So they're having such real conversations. I never expected us to go into the vampire territory. So it really took me by surprise when it did go that way.
Yeah.
But I loved Joe and his very short-lived little arc he had.
Yeah.
I was very sad to see him go.
I was sad to see him go. I was sad to see his dog go. I felt so bad for him when his dog died, and I was like,
yeah. And
then Bev is a horrible, horrible person.
And then I loved the exchange between Lisa and Joe in episode 3 after she's able to walk again, where she comes and confronts him in the.
That was awesome. That was like I got choked up during that. I was like, that's so good. Oh yeah, that scene was like it's worth watching the show for that scene alone. Like that scene is beautiful.
It's so effective. Like it's almost every conversation is really effective in some way, but that's like it's already one of my standouts from the show.
Yeah,
and he's got. I mean, she's really a good actress.
Yeah,
she's so young. She was so effective. But Joe is a really good actor, and then he he didn't say anything but he was just like, you just love. I just loved it.
Yeah, I love that. That whole interaction is awesome. Yeah,
and
that's what Darman strives to be.
Yeah, yeah.
He strives to have that level of excellence, but comes horribly, horribly short.
But I hated when Joe went, because man, he was trying his best, and he was like,
Yeah.
Father, you said if I was struggling to come by, and he's trying to do the right thing and come talk to him, and it's like betrayal, epic betrayal.
But Father Paul, the angel hasn't returned, and he hasn't had blood in too long, and so it's like the temptation is too high. So he does accidentally kill Joe, but then it was like he's like, what do I do?
But he freaking hugged him hardcore.
I know. It was so brutal.
Yeah, and then of course Bev's reaction to it is so disturbing also.
So disgusting. I was like, what a horrible, horrible woman.
And then but she's so good. She's like such a good performance from that actress.
Oh yeah,
too.
The performance is amazing. Yeah,
I hated her from the beginning. I mean, like episode 1, she does a really good job of already making you want to hate this character.
Yeah.
Before she's covering up this freaking vampire kill. And then
and she's just like, she's so on board with the vampires too. She's like so into it, like immediately. It's very bizarre.
Like when he shows like, oh, here's the thing, and then he holds up his skin and it's burning, and she's like, oh God, oh Lord, here we go. He's like off. And then when Wade and Sturge come in, and they somehow get roped into this also.
I know, they're like they just
lays into him with this epic like monologue about you don't cherry pick the, what is it? You don't cherry pick the
word, the good word or whatever. And it was like, oh my gosh, it's so, every word out of her mouth was just hypocrisy. It was brutal. Well, unbridled hypocrisy, and it's like
she was killer at pulling out scripture and just like applying it to every little vampire thing, and
she's like
working it in with everything to.
So as a religious person, those people are the worst people. I'm not even exaggerating. They are evil. Mm-hmm. They are actually evil. Like those people that use religion is an excuse to be vindictive and cruel and evil, I despise with every fiber of my being, and I don't want them in any church anywhere in the world. But unfortunately, there's a lot of them, and that's the thing that's really horrifying and sad about people, about how sick and twisted people can be in terms of like trying to get religion to justify their horrible behavior. When it's like, every time she was on screen, it made me sick. I wanted her to get eaten so bad, and it never happened. I wanted her, because it's like she's already been eating taking the communion, the vampire blood in communion. So it's like, well, she can't die now. Mm-hmm. Sucks.
She's so good at pulling out these speeches though.
Oh yeah. That performance, that actress is amazing. She's great.
Yeah, and
it's so good.
You really don't get that much from her in The Haunting of Hill House, so it's great. It's like she really gets to shine in this.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was crazy. The fact that the mayor gets roped in, Sturge gets roped in.
Yeah, the mayor's just like totally on board with it, because he's like kind of like, well, I guess it worked for my daughter, so I guess I'll get roped in now. Yeah. And I was like, okay. He's such a wimp. He's such kind of like a reed, like a wet noodle. Like he doesn't really stand up to her at all. She basically runs the town, more or less.
Well, yeah, she's like, don't cherry pick the miracles or the blessings of God, and she's like, if you can't accept this, then you might as well let your daughter sit back down, and not stand again.
This is like, dang, like, okay, that's brutal.
I'm on board with that. And then the way she talks about Joe, like she's like, wrap it up.
Yeah. It's just like so sick.
Like the way she just like talked about Joe like he was nothing.
Yeah. Like, well, she killed his dog. Yeah. She killed his dog for like no reason. because it snapped at her. I was like, no, it didn't.
God.
It's just barking because it's a dog and it doesn't like you, which it shouldn't. Dogs are very perceptive like that.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, I love how they tie in everything like with like religion, thematically and musically.
Yeah,
Like they tie it
oh
in
yeah,
so well.
the hymns are awesome. How all that plays out using kind of like an acapella, uh, sort of a choir for a lot of the music. Very effective, very good. I knew most of the hymns, or they're all hymns that I know, which makes me think. I was like, I guess I don't know this very well, but I was like, I was under the impression that Catholics kind of had their own hymns, and I was like, all these are like Protestant hymns. There's like Anglican hymns in here. Abide with Me is like one of my favorite hymns. Period. It's so good because it's basically the person who wrote it knew how difficult life is, and that to me is like that sums up the whole like the whole concept of the series of like dealing with the hardships and toils and grief and torment of life. Life's difficult. It's extremely hard for people. It's extremely hard for everybody, really, when you boil it down to it. And like not to like, everybody should just get over it. It's like, no, life is hard for everybody. Everybody in a certain sense should garner some sympathy for that, because life is not an easy thing to do. So it yeah, I mean, I thought the music choices were all phenomenal, all excellent.
I mean, that's why I loved Riley's character. Grew to love Riley's character so much, is because you can see that he's like actually a good person, because he cared about Joe, even just those little interactions. It wasn't just like a conversation he felt like he had to have. It was an actual genuine conversation that he cared that seemed like he was making progress. So he was actually upset when he didn't show up to the meeting there. And then he was perceptive enough to be like, okay, he just lied about him going to visit his
it's like his
daughter,
sister is
sister.
like, yeah, it's like, wait a minute, but his sister died. So he immediately knows, it's like, all right, you're lying. Yeah, Riley is he's a wonderful character.
Yeah.
You could so easily make that character such an ass and so like above everyone, but he's not. He feels as real. You just get the sense that like he has so much weighing him down all the time, and it's almost like he wishes he could kind of, in a way, he wishes he could kind of believe in this sort of thing, but he just there's no reason for him to anymore. There's nothing that it offers him, and I think that's it's so. It feels so real. It feels so just like a person, right? You know, I think that's what, and the beautiful thing about his relationship with, what's her name? She basically becomes that. So, okay. Riley dies. Riley dies twice. So he gets killed by he gets attacked by the angel, and then Father Monseigneur Pruitt rescues him,
quote unquote,
has him drink blood, and turns him into a vampire, and then basically like lays out this that whole episode is fascinating, because he basically, it's like framed as like Riley in the boat with, she played characters in the other two series, and I can't remember her name in this. And it's all sort of played out as like him and her in this boat, where
okay, hold on. There's so much more to Riley.
There's so much more. Oh no, there is.
But I love that, but I love his whole arc though that leads him there, where I really relate to. Not what he, obviously I can't relate to killing someone, and that's like a big part of how he is the way he is now. But I did relate a lot to like the stuff he would say about like depression related things, and
Mm,
he was like how he feels like he's just existing. Like I felt
mm.
like that before, and it's like I thought that his conversation with
That
what's
whole
her name
conversation, I know, but that whole conversation about death was awesome.
was
That
really
was
good,
wonderful. That was great.
and the fact that we keep going to this dream about him sitting in on this boat in the water, and then it actually comes full circle. That's another
I
Flanagan
know
thing to do.
that is a very Flanagan. I thought that was so good, so beautiful,
It's so beautiful.
like so Flanagan. That was great. Yeah, I loved that too. His arc is very. I did enjoy as well.
And the fact that like he gets turned into a vampire basically, and like they use that so well in the beginning to where like when she first opens the door and it's like a little just chilling sound, and it's like, oh god, he's a vampire, like he has this creepy presence about him, and then they show him like
Mm,
lurking over his parents' bed and stuff,
mm,
looking at them. It's like, oh god, what's he gonna do? Because
yeah.
like in every other vampire medium, you would expect him to just go bad at this point.
Mm,
But that eventually leads to them being stranded out on the boat, and then you, of course, would assume that's bad too. He
yeah.
took her out
It's like
there.
he just isolated her to because Father Paul says something about, or Monsignor Pruitt
So, yeah,
says something about like you can choose who to bless someone else with. It's just like, just be careful that you choose the right person. And so like that kind of made me think like, oh Jesus, he gonna like turn her into one? But no, he's his will is much stronger than the vampirism, which is something that they talk about.
Aaron is
Aaron, that's right, Aaron Green, and they talk about, they actually talk later about how if you,
I love
it's
this.
like, yeah, you could be starving, but if your will is strong enough, it's like you don't have to indulge. It's
I
like,
love that because it really adds so much more to it. So we're
yeah,
that's why I was kind of concerned going to the vampire thing, and especially when Riley died in that episode. I'm like, okay, are we just gonna have Riley be bad now and like
yeah,
do the same thing? But then I love when when Riley's parents come together in that
mm,
final episode,
mm-hmm,
and it's like they're both saying, "Oh, it's my own blood," and then Riley's dad's like, "Yeah, I feel the hunger too, but it doesn't change who you are because I you can resist it."
yeah,
So I love that, where it's not like there's something more to it,
yeah.
and it's so cool.
It's like so it's almost like that means like the fervor, like the experience got to so many people. They were so over ecstatic and overjoyed about this, whatever. They just didn't care about what they did, you know.
Like freaking
Whereas a lot of our,
Lisa's parents were gonna straight up chomp down on her real
yeah,
quick. They were like hunting her down. They were for sure gonna
I know,
eat her up.
they're horrible.
And like that's why I was so glad to see Lisa make it out, because it
I
seemed
know,
like for
yeah,
sure that she would be one of the ones to be converted.
yeah.
But I mean, it was also cool with the whole storyline with the mayor, or not the mayor, the sheriff
The sheriff.
and his son.
Oh yeah, we didn't even talked about him yet. That was great. That whole subplot was awesome. I felt so. It was great, except its resolution was very sad, because essentially like everyone on the island was just horrible to him, and he died.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that was such a sad moment when his son uh ultimately drank the
Yeah,
thing in the church, but that's a whole other scene. But also the
yeah.
actor
He
Raul
was a
was his name.
returner,
He's from
returning.
Bly Manor.
Yeah, one of our
In
favorites.
Paris, he was a sous chef. You might remember.
Yes.
Uh, and he's such a different character in here. He's
I
really
know,
great.
very different. Yeah,
There's something about like most of these characters that are like you can really root for. A lot of them, they're all doing their own thing, but like you can tell he's a good person. There's most of them are good people at the end of the day. So
mm. I liked like investigate St. Patrick's. You
Mhm.
kidding me?
Yeah,
That whole scene was like, oh man, that scene was brutal to listen to. It was just like,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
And I mean, they do a good job of like the whole subplot with him and Joe and Bev early on too. That was a nice way to ease into the series too, because then it ultimately all like it's all relevant in
yeah,
the end. But like in the beginning, it was like a minor, like
yeah. It's just like, oh, like town rubbing, they're rubbing elbow, rubbing shoulder, like in a bad way. They're like, oh, they're kind of grating on each other. They're like they don't get along. It's like, no,
yeah,
it's a lot more. And then it gets like it enters so many further, deeper, darker dimensions than that.
yeah. But
So
like you can see. I mean, I'm going all over the place, but Bev being all passive aggressive with Aaron in that like very early on,
yeah,
where she's like judging her over the little things, like, oh, your mother is always never one to waste, but here you are,
wasting
throwing a whole
some.
bottle away.
I was like, oh my gosh, I hate you people. I hate people like this so
They
much.
do such a good job of
Yeah,
sowing those seeds early on to hate
yeah,
her,
yeah,
and then she's so prominent, like in everything.
yeah. I ultimately it kind of becomes, and this to me, I think might be one of my gripes with it is that it ultimately becomes sort of this. It ultimately kind of becomes Aaron versus Bev at the very end, like they're those kind of ideals or factions, I guess you could say, because Bev is the one that's leading the extremism and burning the whole island down, and then Aaron is sort of the middle road, the voice of reason. Whereas like originally, and I think I was even reading that conceptually they were originally planning on writing it just as being uh, Pruitt versus Riley, but they as the character sort of kept developing, they felt like that wasn't the best idea. And I kind of agree. I'm glad that sort of was resolved in the way it did, because I thought Riley's sacrifice to be like, I'm showing you that this is what's going on, and you need to get out. You need to just get out of here,
Yeah,
or save the people, because I know you're not going to listen to me, but you need to get out. Um, and yeah, the sun rises and he burns. But I to me it was like there was a moment where I thought that it was a point there I was like I was getting a little choked up, because it was like she's so okay, so they have the midnight mass, the Easter vigil, and they turn basically the whole town into vampires, and they all like willingly, almost like most of them willingly do it. There's a few exceptions,
I mean, this is
but
one of
like
the most disturbing scenes too.
yeah,
Like,
oh, it's horrifying.
like
Yeah, because
this, and then everything that ensues after it. It's like Jesus.
yeah, it's just,
We've
it's
really taken
horrible.
a turn here.
Yeah, and
But
that's where Pruitt's like, yeah, I think we made a mistake. He realizes
finally, yeah,
he realizes finally that it's like this isn't an angel, and I think we made a mistake. Sometimes it just takes
takes time.
the fruition of your actions come to the full encompassing version of vampires that you've turned your whole town into. That yeah, maybe this was a bad idea.
Maybe.
I thought that as she sort of burns the whole town down for God knows what reason. Because I go, she's expecting, she's like, we're gonna rise again in glory. This is our arc. This we're gonna go to the rest of the world and share this with everybody. It's like, cool, you're gonna go infect everybody. You're gonna turn the whole world into
Yeah.
turn the whole world into vampires,
They're
basically.
just spreading the goodwill. That's what you're
Well,
doing.
turn who you want to into vampires. That's like the super dark thing about it. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
we'll kill everyone who we don't see as fit to receive the gift, and it's like, where's that in the Bible? that's so messed up.
And she was petty to the very end. She was like
I know.
that one guy where she didn't think he was worthy to go into the
He's like, but I
church with
liked him. He
them.
was nice to me.
And then
Yeah,
he was talking about how I think I killed my
killed my
wife,
mom.
or I killed
Oh, I
my
think
daughter
I
or
killed my
something.
wife and daughter. Yeah, I killed my wife and daughter.
And
Yeah.
she's like, "Oh, sorry to tell you, but you could have saved them."
Yeah, you should have come to mass. You guys never showed up.
Yeah,
What's your problem, huh? And I was like, wow,
it's rough. That's
what
rough.
a horrible person.
But I mean, like, is the idea that guy is a bad guy then, right? Because like you can resist it. you shouldn't be killing your wife and daughters, even though it's like an urge that's like
I mean, I
it's like an
suppose
undeniable urge, but like the wife or the Riley's parents were able to resist it. Like they
it's
never did it.
yeah, maybe it's just because he wasn't a developed character, so they're like, oh, we can do whatever with him. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he just was like he was having an off day. He's just
But
like really. He was
really,
like, oh,
yeah,
I'm pissed
wrong
at being
time.
a father. I'm pissed at being a father right now. I wish I wasn't married. And then the thing attacked him, and he's like, well, okay. And then it was like, oh God, what did I do?
It was so
You know,
horrible
maybe it
too.
was
Like
like
it's
that.
the whole
Oh
the
yeah,
whole like sequence where people were just like the very few survivors that are just like living in terror and just running
yeah.
around. It was like I was hoping Lisa would make it out of there. I'm like she's a good soul. Just get her out of there.
Just a wholesome, good person. Yeah. Um, but so they're kind of congregating before getting into the rec center, and yeah, so this actually ties in. So she rejects him, but then Pruitt comes to him and is like, I will accept you. That's a what a horrible, cruel thing to do to them, but we will accept you. And I thought there was going to be like a sort of new moment there, and
Mm.
then that's all kind of just that just all sort of goes away. And I was like, oh, we could have had like maybe a that would have been an interesting further moment. It's like we still could have had the thing with him and his daughter. We still could have had that play out, but I thought it would have been a more interesting dynamic to have to try to like pit these two against each other. Somebody who's been like a devout follower and is now is like, I'm disappointed in you, you false prophets. And it was like, geez,
Mm.
lady. And
Yeah,
then
yeah. I mean, I did like what they did there at the end, but you're right. They maybe could have even like expanded that into
I felt
more
like that
like
just
a couple
wasn't
episodes maybe. That would have
yeah, I
been
just
cool
felt
to
like
see.
that wasn't fleshed out enough, and I felt like that deserved a little bit more. Because I don't really know if I liked the idea that where Pruitt kind of admits to his ex flame, as we find out.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, this is a whole
he,
other subplot.
there's this whole other subplot that's kind of just revealed at the last couple episodes, um, where though Joe alludes to it earlier,
Mm-hmm.
he
Yeah,
does
he
allude to it
does.
earlier, which I thought that's a cool little full circle thing there. We also had a literal Chekhov's gun.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Yes. um, uh, but uh, but yeah, I just wish that I wish that was fleshed out more because I don't back to what I was saying. I don't know if I really liked the idea that like Pruitt was saying, kind of said like the entire reason I brought him back. Yeah, sure, the island benefited from it, but it was because I wanted you to be young again, like me. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I can kind of get that, but like because it's like the selflessness of the priest with the selfishness of the human, right? That those kind of intertwined things. I like that dynamic, but I felt like just like boiling it down to yeah, well, whatever. I just did it for you, and it was kind of like I don't know if I like that. You were a priest for like 50 years. It's
Mm-hmm.
like you're telling me that you're just kind of seeing the town benefiting from it as a bonus, whereas you could have made your ex flame young again was like the main reason. I don't know. I didn't really like that so much.
Mm-hmm.
Just knowing um yeah, I don't know. I was not the biggest fan of that. I like that subplot though. I like that the whole concept of that. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's wonderful. I think his character is that actor is amazing. I mean, he needs to be in so many more things. He was so good in
Yeah,
this
I
role.
wonder if we could have had like a bit of a redemption thing for him, because like they only had like the slight hint of it when he was like when he was gonna let the guy in when Bev wouldn't, and
Yeah,
they had a slight go at odds at the end there, but ultimately it's like Monsignor Pruitt is a bad person, right? Like he's talking about how he had no remorse for killing Joe.
yeah,
Like that's not a part of being a vampire. We saw that guy was clearly remorseful for killing his wife and daughter. Like he was not okay with that. Like in
yeah,
Sturge, he was talking about, yeah, I've done some stuff I don't feel okay with, but like he had no problems killing Joe, and he felt no remorse for it.
And
And
that for him was like, it was totally justified in the fact that like, because of it was it's a sick sort of play on the idea that one of the like, why does sin exist in the world? Why is their idea of sin? How can sin possibly exist in the world when there is a good God? And one of the, like, it's not necessarily an argument for, but it is something that is kind of shown throughout the Bible, is that like, horrible things happen to people, sometimes for no reason, sometimes because they put themselves in that situation. Those horrible things down the line can ultimately end up being like something that plays out in a way that wouldn't have happened had that not occurred. Like there, that happens like repeatedly throughout the Bible. And that's sort of like the idea that he kind of twists to justify the fact that, oh yeah, I killed him, but hey, God makes amazing things happen through terrible things all the time, so I'm okay. I totally justify it in my mind. I'm like, that is so messed up.
but like it seemed like he was sitting there and he was like not okay with what had happened, and then Bev came in and almost justified it for him.
Yeah.
And was like, oh, the Lord is acting through you. And,
yeah.
And she's like, I can't believe I have to explain this. He works
Yeah.
in these ways, and so I felt like that almost was more of her.
Yeah.
Instilling that, but I thought maybe it would have been cool to see Monsignor Pruitt be remorseful or like feel regret doing it, but then like Bev, you can see more clearly that Bev convinces him that this is a part of God's plan. And then, like, in the end, you could have had an actual redemption moment for him, maybe, like, where he's, like, opposed to it as it's, like, about to be spread, you know, to everyone else. I feel like they could have done something there. I'm just kind of thinking this now, but...
Yeah, I just felt like he was such a dominant presence, and it felt like they just kind of sidelined him because Bev is now taking center stage because he's sort of regretting everything he's done. To the point where he's just not even doing anything about it anymore because he feels like he can't. He's out of his control. It's the angel, the demon, whatever, the ancient vampire that was lying in the dark Mesopotamian cave.
But it's like at that point, there's no redemption to be had there. There's not.
Yeah.
He didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't act on it. He didn't do anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and he had no remorse for killing Joe. So it's like, yeah.
There's a lot of that's the thing that's so fascinating about this show, though. There's a lot of complexity to a lot of these characters that aside from Bev, who is just kind of like not very complex of a character. She's just kind of evil, but she's great. I mean, the actress
so, like
is
and it's
great.
Disturbingly so believable. You know,
That's the thing that I hate the most.
There's definitely people that could fit right into that role if these same things were to happen. I mean, there's an undeniable effect of having your Monsignor come back as a young person, though. That's also a concept in this that's like, you have to think about the fact that like unexplainable things are happening, like this thing with Lisa, the mother literally growing younger, Monsignor Pruitt coming back so much younger. It's like these are unexplainable things. So if you have someone saying this is why they're happening, and like it's even like and then Bev using this like horrible killing massacre of Joe, and saying like, well, I mean, look at him. He is a miracle in himself that he's here. So he can't. It's not a bad thing that this happened. Like this is all for reasons. So if you have people that are already like their mind is in that spot to where they're like, you know,
they're sort of susceptible or a little bit more like willing to accept that. Yeah.
So it's like,
just
it's like, how do you process all that, and who's really a bad person out of all of it, and who's just like a weak-minded person, you know?
Right.
It's really interesting to think about. Like if this were to happen, it's like these a lot of things like Riley was saying. I can explain this. I can explain that. I can't explain how you know that
how you knew she was going to walk. I don't know how you know that.
And
Yeah.
then beyond that, all these other things that happen, you can't explain it. So then at that point, people are much more willing to go on board with crazy stuff. You know, I'll drink this freaking blood that is gonna make me die and then come back. Like,
Yeah, I'll drink. It's basically, I'm just going to drink this rat poison that's going to just like absolutely destroy my stomach lining. And then I'm going to come back and I'll be okay.
yeah, but I'm all on board, you know. Freaking sheriff's own son, just like, I choose God. Like, okay.
Yeah, that was so heartbreaking. That was like, that's so heartbreaking. I was like, oh no. You're not though. You're not choosing God. You're choosing whatever this is. So messed up. Yeah.
But it's also effective how like everything is so good. It's so well done.
Yeah, I think I really liked it. So the only other thing that I thought was a little bit to the point where it was like, all right, Mike Flanagan has been criticized in the past for being sometimes maybe either a little heavy-handed or maybe a little corny. And I thought that entire scene where it was sort of where Evie what the heck is Aaron? The scene where Aaron at the very I don't know where that came from. The scene where Aaron at the end is like, oh, what did I say to him? I was like, oh, that's right. This is what I meant to say. And it was like the whole scene where it's like, oh, we're all like space dust and we're all going to be energy. We're energy and we're just going to return to energy. Mm-hmm. I just thought that I was just like, but that's not, it's framing it in a way that like was trying to make it seem like it was a positive, but I was like, but that's not really, doesn't mean anything. Like the show is framing it in a way that this is supposed to mean something to me, but this means nothing. This is just as depressing. This is just as standard of an explanation for what happens when you die that what Riley said, which by the way is 100% true. That's why I think all of those near-death experiences are like I died and then I came back and I saw myself in heaven and I was like, yeah, that's a bunch of nonsense. Mm-hmm. That's literally he completely explains like why that phenomena happens is because your brain when your heart stops, your brain just dumps basically a psychedelic more or less to just kind of like ease you into your brain dying. And that's why like you just see kind of what your brain wants you to see is you enter like a dreamlike state where it all blends together. Yeah, I mean, so your energy and you turn to dust. That okay. I will say that was probably one of my favorite things Riley did. Mm-hmm. Was the message to Pruitt. The last thing he said to him was remember, from dust you came and to dust you shall return. I was like, that is so good. Yeah. He straight up quotes scripture at him. That's so great. Oh yeah, that was awesome. I was like that was beautiful.
If we go back to that again, like I really love Riley's arc. I think it's such the perfect way for him to go out. Like
yeah,
the fact that again they used him as this whole typical horror thing where it's like, okay, he's a vampire now, so now we're scared of him in every scene. But then when he goes out, it's ultimately just this act of ultimate selflessness.
Yeah,
where it's like,
yeah, the atheist commits the act of ultimate selflessness,
and he could have shown her in different ways. Like he didn't have to die to show her, but he could have felt like he doesn't know if he'll be able to control it, you know. So for everyone's own good, he had to do this, but like put it out there so that Aaron has a chance to survive and save other people.
I love how that episode ends, by the way, too, where it's like it cuts to him. It's like the sunrise happens, and then exactly how he described like what happens when you die. It's like he sees the girl that he killed, like accept him and like basically like take him up somewhere. We don't know where. You know, his mind would say heaven, and then it like hard cuts to Aaron sobbing as he like immolates completely. It's very graphic. Yeah, it's the most graphic burning that happens in the whole show.
I mean, what a tragic or traumatic thing to go through, right? So
the person you love, seriously,
just like disintegrate and
disintegrates. So the whole like skeleton like falls apart, and
I mean, I've seen people when they're watching the episode, they're like, I mean, did you have to put her through that? Like, is there some other way?
Like, is there maybe something else you could have done? But
I'm trying to think, what could he have done? Like, he could have actually, yeah. Now that I think of it, he could have just shown her like one night,
hey, I'm burning.
Like, look, I'm burning up in the sun, and then the next day it's like, okay, I'll go out on the boat by myself,
and
so you don't have to see this, and you'll believe it and you'll know what happened. But
you accept it for the logic of the storytelling because it makes sense. Then they can't have Riley around because he knows too much and yada yada yada. He's also like,
mm-hmm. But it's so effective.
We're giving Aaron the arc now. We're giving Aaron time to develop, and
it's still so effective. But
very effective. I thought it was great.
Now the last episode though, where we have like our final little survivor team here, that was really fun because it's like the whole series they've had this horror, like little horror elements to it and some creepy things happening, but that was like a full on like you're in
it's just a horror movie, straight up a horror movie.
Yeah
This entire town is like
horrible
after you. They are all after you, and they're going to turn you into vampires if you don't get out.
Here's like what I don't get is that how come some people like Riley's parents and Riley himself can have so much control over themselves like for so long, and then you have like the freaking
so Riley. So here's the thing that to me Riley's parents were. He told them in the letter. He told them all that stuff. He told them exactly what was going on, and that was why he came. That was why Riley's dad came to, which brilliantly played by Henry Thomas. What a phenomenal actor! He's just so good. Mm-hmm. He's just kind of like he's just an old guy. He's just an old fisherman. He's just great. Just so good. Because he writes the letters to his parents are basically kind of tell them what's going on. So like when he comes to Monsignor Pruitt, he's like, my son's not well. Like he wrote this. What is this gibberish that he wrote? And like, you're in the center of all this. He was like, yeah, he's not doing well. And he's like, he said a lot of serious things. And I just want to make sure that he's okay. And then that you can kind of see when they're talking about like the whole at the midnight mass.
Yeah.
They were resisting it. That was another thing too, is like a lot of the people that weren't super into it, the people that were able to resist better were people who weren't super into being turned into vampires. For the most part, I think all the people that resisted were people that weren't into it, or people that once it happened, after it happened, and after they sort of like lived in the moment, maybe they fed. They then were like, "This is messed up."
But but I'm just like, some of them were so overboard with it, where like the kid with the long curly hair, where he's like, "Oh, you look like, tasty." I'm like, geez, he'd already freaking, you could tell he already fed on someone else, and he's like, he's just straight up out here.
Wasn't the curly? Isn't he the one that ate his mom? Didn't he say that?
Yeah, he's like, I think.
Yeah.
I'm like, what in the world? Like, he didn't seem like a bad person, but
I guess he was. We didn't really spend enough time with him.
But it's
that's the problem with these ensemble casts where you're talking about a whole town. It's like, you can't spend time with everybody. So,
but it's just so crazy that some of them were so overboard with it. Where it's like they were just straight up hunting people out there.
Yeah, I know.
They
it was
were out
messed
there
up.
hunting people down. And but then you just have the parents that were good. And so in the end, who do we end up with alive out of this whole thing? We got freaking Lisa. And I think Warren is the other kid.
Warren is the other kid. That's it. Those are the only people that live. Yeah. They're the only people that lived on the whole island. So that whole island just like it's like a Jonestown incident, basically. It's like freaking everyone just
could the
died.
sheriff have survived?
He could have, but I think he gets shot like 3 times and was bleeding the whole time on the way to the beach. Well, he did his.
But he was still doing
prayer.
His prayer. Like, maybe could he have survived after that?
I don't think so.
That's crazy, though.
He collapsed.
So it's just the 2 kids in the end, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
You can even then like almost interpret that as is that like a Noah's Ark scenario or like an Adam and Eve thing where it's like, oh, now they're It's like you can even take some religious symbology in that too, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just the whole concept of like using the idea of transubstantiation, that is the idea that at the mass, at the table, at the Lord's Supper, that the body and blood of Christ are, the bread and the wine are transformed into the the body and blood of Christ. So like that whole concept being sort of iterated on, and being like, you're actually consuming someone's literal blood to turn yourself into vampire, to offer all these miracles to happen. And it's like that idea is just it's so chilling and interesting. Like it's yeah, I really like, it's an interesting idea and how it was developed.
I didn't really realize until now that like those are the only two left. That
is crazy. That is real crazy.
Midnight Mass season 2.
I don't think that's gonna happen. This is a limited series, so I don't think that's gonna happen.
Grown up Lisa. The next. Oh, maybe I wonder if like another haunting series where they bring.
Yeah, we'll bring that.
Some people
so could be in the same universe, in the same haunting, the same universe.
It's like the haunting of something. It's where like Lisa and Warren are now like haunted by ghosts. We're back to ghosts again.
We're back to ghosts. The ghosts of the island.
They got out of vampires and now they're haunted by ghosts.
The ghost of Bev showing up and.
And Bev. Bev had a great final moment for us.
So this is another problem I have. I felt like Bev never got a proper dressing down. And that's going to be like, that was what I was sort of saying. This is the thing. That was the sort of thing that I was going to mention at the beginning. It's like, well, Alec, that's the point. The people that do deserve to be punished and dressed down sometimes don't, right? That's the whole idea of like, this is like that innocent girl got killed in the beginning. And yet horrible, horrible people like Bev get to just live scot-free. Like I guess that is kind of the point. But like, man, in terms of like a story sort of thing, and just in terms of somebody who is actually religious, I just wanted to see her get her.
She burned, bro. But
she did burn, but I wanted to see her get more of a comeuppance than what she did.
I know. Riley's mom gave her a good talking to.
She did give her a good talking to before slitting her throat. It was great.
Yeah, I'm sure she really took that to heart.
Yeah.
And then, it is kind of epic though that she's left in this devastation, literally a whole island on fire. Nowhere to go.
Yeah, they burned the boats. That was great. The boat burning was really great.
Yeah.
Burning the rec center was really great. I like how they did that, even though it cost people lives.
And like, damn, Erin almost could have gotten out of there if like she wasn't. It's like, I feel like she was close to getting out.
Yeah, the angel just
freaking
consumed so much blood, but she had the last laugh. He's very, and that was alluded to earlier in the episode. Well, alluded to, it was literally shown, where it's like when he's feeding, he there's nothing, he's so fixated on the feeding that like Lisa like shoots him like 3 times, and he's just kind of like annoyed. Just like, get away. Just sort of annoyed. Like you'd think he would attack, but he's like, nah, he's super into the like, I need to feed.
Some of the feeding was so sensual. He's like,
yeah.
Like,
I mean, really that's the thing. That's the thing of vampires, right?
Watching that. Like, wow.
Well, I mean, even the sharing of the blood between Pruitt and the angel in the cave. That was like, there was like a sensual element to that too. It was very disturbing and interesting.
I don't like it quite much.
I don't really like that, yeah. But interesting series. I mean, we could go on time about this for probably like another 2 hours. Honestly, there's a lot this tackles. I don't think it necessarily it doesn't do it as well as I would like, but it does it well enough that I'm very satisfied.
It does it.
I'm so glad.
Does it so well.
I'm very satisfied. I think it was a wonderful exploration of these ideas and concepts in a horrifying way. And I applaud Mike Flanagan for doing it.
Like it's Good job. It's such an impact on me. I'm like, I was resonating with a lot of it. I was like, I was disturbed by parts of it. I was crying. I was just going through it all.
Well, I see. And that's the thing. I choked up when Pruitt was like, "No, all are welcome here." He was like starting to open the doors and be like, he's like, no, we like our church is like this. We don't. It was kind of like him almost like washing his hands, being like, this is all wrong. We need to like. It was almost like he was like, we're just gonna greet the sunrise all together because this all needs to get. We all need to get cleansed, washed away from this. And I was like getting choked up because I was like, man, this is such a good moment for this character. And then I was like, oh, okay, that didn't really happen. So I think that's kind of why I was disappointed, maybe a little bit. Yeah. So
it's like
I wanted to get more emotional.
It's like a hint of redemption there, but
yeah,
could have gone more there.
Yeah.
But what a tragic thing to happen to this small town, huh?
I know. It was already and that's the thing too. There's all these elements of like the town is struggling, and these miracles bring them so much joy, and it's so much happiness.
Yeah, but it's all their demise.
But it's all twisted. But it's also twisted, and that's what ultimately leads to leads to the whole demise of the island. And a lot of it just is to do with this zeal and this fervor and this extremism of the freaking Bev. She's kind of ultimately the one that dooms the island in the end.
But I mean, Monsignor.
They all do. Yeah, he shouldn't have brought the freaking vampire back from the Mesopotamian like an idiot. What was he thinking?
But it's so good. I do love. Yeah, I still love the fact that someone said, yeah, he's telling meaningful stories with horror. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's great. I'm grateful for this channel because I don't think I would have ever watched The Haunting of Hill House, The Haunting of Bly Manor, now this.
I know. I don't know if I would have either. So I'm so happy that Mike Flanagan exists and is living.
Yeah, give me more.
And is making such good stories, like very thought-provoking content. Like it's great. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah.
He might be an atheist, but to me, he's doing a lot of good
work.
He's doing the Lord's work in certain ways. Art is a way to tell truth about the world, right? It's a way to explore concepts and truth, like big T. So it's this. To me, that's the beauty of stuff like this. So
for me, it's 9.5. I had it up there in the beginning. It's still 9.5. To me, this is better than Bly Manor. It's up there with Hill House, and I cannot state enough how much I love this show and the characters. I connected with pretty much all the characters in different ways, and even Bev, who I hated, was just like a thrill to watch.
Just thrilled to see her, to see her in action. This is a 9, just a straight 9 for me. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still loved this. I still loved everything about this. I think the ending wasn't as perfect as I wanted it to be, because like there were probably up until episode 5, 6, I probably would have given this like maybe even a 10. Like I was loving everything about this. It was so good. There were so many parts of it that I was like, this is better than The Haunting series. But I felt like those stuck their landings better than this did. And that I think is kind of my gripes with it. But still an amazing series. Still highly recommend checking it out. It needs to not get snubbed at Oscars, not Oscar season, but what's the Emmys? Yeah. They need to pay some respect to Mike. Pay some respect to Mike Flanagan. This is so good.
Respect to Mike Flanagan, and then and the actors that play
all the actors,
Bev and Monsignor Pruitt, especially.
Monsignor Pruitt was, like I said, that's would have been one of my favorite performances I've seen in like anything for years. It was so captivating. He's just such a great, yeah.
This is one of those shows that's gonna stick with me. It's like The Haunting of Hill House.
Me too.
I love finding these shows where it's like, I'm not gonna forget about it in a couple months. I'm still gonna loving it and encouraging people to watch it because
I want to go back and watch some of his older stuff, like Gerald's Game. That was his that was one that he did earlier, and I definitely want to see some of his earlier work because I've loved everything that he's done. He's so good.
Yeah, I mean, and keep doing more stuff. Keep bringing back the same actors every time for all I care.
I love that. Yeah, that's. I like it when it's like a Wes Anderson thing too. He always has like the same cast, like in all his movies. I love that. He'll sprinkle in some new people here and there, and
Yeah, but I'm telling you, like it was so cool that I don't know their names, but the actors that played Bev, coming from the character in Hill House, I never would have asked for her to be brought back, because there wasn't really anything that memorable from that performance. And then she's like the star here, and then Joe's performance here, after being like Mr. Dudley in Hill House, like these aren't the ones you would expect. You always think of the main characters, but like, well, I'm so glad they got to be brought back. And
they both shined absolutely. Especially Joe. I'm a big Joe. I stan Joe.
I stan Joe so hard, bro. And then you still had plenty of new talent to appreciate, man. Riley, Monsignor Pruitt, Lisa, they're all great.
Yeah. I think Riley was in, I was looking this up. I was like, he's great. He was in Friday Night Lights, I guess. He was like one of the main characters in that. So
what Riley really killed it for me is that like he's so reserved the whole time, but it's like does it so well of like someone who is just so deeply depressed and just feels like they're existing. Like you really get that from him. And then there's moments of like emotion. They're just so great.
Poignant. Very poignant. Yeah, for sure.
And the final exchange on the boat. He's like, damn,
so good.
So many beautiful moments in this show about vampires.
I know this show about vampires is very.
And I mean the concept itself, it was like very Dracula, right? It's like very classic vampires. The fact that almost like they were setting up this whole army thing in the end, turning all these people to be vampires. It's like that's not something we haven't seen before, but like they take an age-old thing and really made something great from it. So that's a Tarqaron score 9.25 out of 10.
Yeah,
man,
very deserved. It was great.
Yeah. What video would you recommend our viewers watch after this?
Go continue the spooks. Watch our review of Junji Ito's Censor. Go check it out. Yeah. Yes. I'm not gonna. We talked Mike Flanagan so much that's easy. You take a break from Mike Flanagan for a little bit and go check out other spooky stuff let's talk about.
I never would have taken a break.
All right.
There's still more to talk about. Thank you for watching, though. Subscribe to the channel. Yeah. Subscribe to our podcast feed. Like the video. Leave a comment, letting us know if you watch this show. What are your thoughts? Do you now believe in God or not? So let us know. Hit the notification bell. Follow us. Hit something else. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Instagram. Like us on Facebook. Tarqaron TWO.
There it is.
All right.